Hi everyone! Today I'm making a pair of shorts with a zipper flap using a pattern that I drafted from body measurements. I do have a separate video showing how I draft my patterns for shorts, and a link for that should appear somewhere at the top of this video. So let's begin. Taking my fabric, I'm going to place it with the right sides facing each other, like so. Then I'm placing my front pattern on it, and I'm going to trace it and then cut it out of the fabric. I put some holes along here to help me redraw this seam line. I'm using carbon paper to print the dart on the other side of the fabric. After cutting out the front pattern, I'm going to trace and cut out the back pattern. Again, I'm using carbon paper to print the dart on the other side of the fabric. Now that is done, I should have 4 pieces of fabric. As you can see, I have my darts printed on all of the fabric pieces. Now I'm going to join the front pieces together and the back pieces together. I am going to join the back pieces along this line with a 1/2 inch seam allowance using a regular stitch. For the front pieces, I'm going to start with a basting stitch up until right before the curve, then continue the rest of the way with a regular stitch. I like to do this joining step first so that everything is still nice and aligned properly while I'm sewing. So now our 2 back pieces is just one big piece of fabric. And so is our front piece. Next, I'm going to sew all 4 of the darts. So my camera cut out for a little bit, but all I did was fold and hem the vertical raw edge of the zipper flap. So now I'm going to attach my zipper. This part does get a little tricky, so please try and watch what I'm doing. I'm putting my zipper face down slightly to the right of the zipper flap seam, but pushing it as close as possible to the seam without crossing over to the other side. Flipping the rest of the fabric out of the way to the left, I'm going to sew the zip to the zipper flap along here. Next, I'm going to flip the zipper like so onto the right zipper flap, moving the rest of the fabric out of the way so we don't sew it by mistake. I'm going to sew the zipper onto the zipper flap along here using a zipper foot. Next, I'm taking the zipper with the flap over to the other flap and I'm going to sew along here. I'm just going to show you again. I'm flipping the zipper and the flap to the other flap and I'm going to sew along here. I'm going to pin the zipper flap on my right so it doesn't get in the way of the next step. Next, I'm going to sew along the front of the fabric like so, joining the main fabric to the left zipper flap. Some people like to curve it here, but I prefer just leaving it straight. Then I'm going to unpin the other flap. I'm then going to hand stitch both flaps together at the bottom. Finally, I'm going to remove the basting stitch that I had put in earlier. And that is our simple zipper flap. Next, I'm going to cut out my waistband. I'm going to cut out a long strip of fabric folded in two. The length has to be at least the sum of the waist measurement plus all of the seam allowances at the waist, plus an extra 2 inches so we can tuck the ends of the waistband in properly when we're sewing it closed. I decided on a height of 1.5 inches, which also includes the seam allowance, so it's a pretty small waistband. I'm going to draw a line to mark it, and then I'm going to cut it. Next, I'm going to cut it into two, one for the front and one for the back. I am then going to take the one for the front and cut it into two again. I am just going to iron them flat now. I just realized at this point that I ironed it with the right sides facing each other when I should have ironed it with the wrong sides facing each other. I really didn't feel like going back to the ironing board, so I left it as it was, but you should probably not do that. Next, I align the front pieces like so, with the right sides of the waistband facing the right sides of the main shorts. Then I pin it in place. Then I'm going to sew along the waist with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm going to take the back piece and do the same. Next, I'm going to join the side seams. First, I'm going to align the front and the back pieces like so. Then, I'm going to draw a line vertically up from the side of the shorts. And then cut out the excess. Then I'll do the same for the other side. I'm going to sew along the sides from the top of the waistband to the bottom of the shorts. To join the crotch is pretty simple. I'm just going to sew a stitch from one end to the other. I can choose to go over it again to make sure the crotch is pretty secure. I'm going to fold my waistband like so and then iron it flat. I already did this for most of the waistband off camera, but I'm going to tuck about 1/4 inch of the waistband in like so. Then I'm going to pin it down. I did this all around the waistband. To finish off the waistband, some people choose to use a stitch in the ditch method. I personally like to hand stitch, so I'm going to do that. I find it looks a lot neater when I stitch by hand. Next, I'm just going to hem the bottom of the shorts. And we are pretty much done, guys, with our super simple shorts. The final step is to hand stitch a hook and eye, which I chose to do off camera. And that is it, guys, we are done. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.